Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I can't believe it's already December the 4th. Absolutely wild. We have some great speakers for you today and also some great community updates that we want to share with you. So why don't we start by talking a little bit about some community updates. For anyone who wasn't on the last community call, we have set up some link trees. One to go to see all of the latest content that's being published on our social media channels. So if you scan that QR code or put that link tree link in, that's a great place to go just to get to the community site, the YouTube channels that we run, the LinkedIn channels, see some of the latest series. I think it was Angeliki who pointed out, I don't know that everyone knows that Microsoft is creating this content, so you should let them know. So we've created a link to link, and we will keep that updated. And anytime we have something new and exciting that's been launched, we will call that out on these calls. Then we have a second link, which is the community events. So again, scan that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to talk through, we want to keep you updated on the latest community events that you can engage with, whether that's events to register to attend or whether it's events, to present at, because it can be really hard to keep up to date with all of the community events that are coming. So Angeliki, maybe you could talk through some of the community events that are upcoming.
Absolutely. So today we had the conclusion of the Power Platform French Summit. So apologies for that date. It did end
I know,
today.
that's me. Sorry, I was thinking.
No worries.
What's
It was
that
a
date?
test. It was a test for everyone. So it was between yesterday and today in Paris. But the good news is you can follow on YouTube for free. So a lot of the sessions are already there. Great content. The keynote was from Ryan Cunningham, and a lot of other fantastic community speakers have shared. So have a watch. If we move to the next slide. Perfect. So we have a few reminders. So EPPC, the European Power Platform Conference, happening in June next year. The call for speakers is closing next week. So if you haven't submitted and you're interested, please remember that there's a deadline for that. And similarly, if we move to the next slide, we have another reminder for a call for speakers. Another fantastic conference, Dynamics Minds, that's in Slovenia next May. And it brings the whole of the community together from a business perspective. The call for speakers ends a little bit after the holidays. So again, if you're interested and you haven't submitted yet, have a think. It could be by yourself. It could be with someone else. Collaborations are also a fantastic way to get involved. Or if you're new and you're not sure where to start, reach out to us. We're happy to have discussions around new speakers.
I hung up right when she started her last two slides to summarize.
No. There we go.
Thanks, Lydia. Okay, and then if we move to the next slide, just a general reminder. So we wanted to raise awareness about Microsoft Reactor in case you have not been as close or involved. So Microsoft Reactor is both a platform and a meetup that the Microsoft provides. It's essentially community initiatives. It brings a lot of different speakers and content together. And it's not just BizOps related, but of course, it does involve that too. Content, it is free to access, and it has all sorts of events, and sometimes they are regional too. So have a look at your local Reactor and see what they have coming up. It could be an interesting event you could attend. It could be call for speakers for another user group that is taking place there. So either way, it's a fantastic way to get involved into the community, and it has both a global and regional presence.
That's awesome. I personally did not know about Microsoft Reactor. I feel like there's so many hubs of information, places to learn, places to present. So love that you called that one out. And as I said, if you go to that link tree, community events, you can see links, get access links to all of those events really easily. So I had created this slide to say we have our first community call badge, engagement enthusiast, for someone who is absolutely well, true and deserving of receiving it. Then I was told that he wasn't on this call, but as ever, he's filling in the chat. So I think he might be, and that is Bulant. We are so grateful for you. You are such an awesome contributor on every single call. You keep the energy up. Thank you so much. We are going to send the badge via email, and the idea, if I just see if I've got some old slides here that I can show you, is you can either put the badges on your, post them on LinkedIn, but we also have versions of them that you can wrap around your profile picture on LinkedIn and other social channels. So you are a shining example, Beulah. We're so grateful for you. And we hope that you never, ever stop coming to these calls because you have such great energy. One other thing before we jump into our sessions is the January call has been moved from the 1st of January to the 7th. We didn't think many folks would want to join after a late night at midnight. So if you look at the recurring calendar invitation, it should have moved to 7th of January. If you're not seeing that, please let us know. I know Dwayne is planning to do a second push out of the event, of the recurring calendar invitation. There was a setting where, first of all, everyone had to go ahead and accept it. And then there was a new one that said, oh, actually, we can just push it out automatically. Okay, there we go. Amanda, we're already getting a message from someone saying they don't see it. So Dwayne, maybe now is a good time to push out the invitation again, and we can see what happens for folks while we're on this call. I think what's happened is some folks received it and accepted it, and some folks received it and didn't. And I'm not saying we expected you to accept it. That will have just, flooded in your emails more. We just didn't realize that was the setting. So if you send that out now, Dwayne, that would be awesome. And then we'll do another check-in later on in the call to see if that's worked for folks. Okay, so we have two fantastic speakers today. Angeliki, do you want to introduce our first one, Cindy?
Absolutely. So Cindy is joining us to talk about the COE and particularly how to be building it, as well as how a CSPRA consultancy can assist in this transition. So Cindy, we're excited to hear more. Welcome.
Cindy,
Thank
you should
so
be
much.
a presenter. Yeah, so you should be able to just take over the screen.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So welcome, everybody. I'm actually dialing in from, I'd say it's not quite sunny. It's not freezing either. We're doing okay here in the northeast of England. So I'm a place called Newcastle. It's dark by now, but the Christmas lights are up on the estate. So it's feeling festive, Dwayne. It's feeling festive. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And building a center of excellence, it's something that I'm really quite passionate about, and I'm actually combining sort of three passions here: building a center of excellence, working with business apps on the CRM side. And the reason for that, I actually come from a sales and marketing stroke business development background. So before I moved into tech, I actually had different sales and marketing sort of backgrounds, and then I moved into tech about 8 years ago. So I'm currently working as solution architect with Capgemini, but I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer, and I have been so for like 7 years. So I'm really passionate about seeing the technology evolve, and then talk about how businesses can really use the technology to become better. And you know what? It is not just about individual projects and individual business initiatives, but as people are using the Power Platform, and as the capabilities of the platform grow, and with that the capabilities of Dynamics 365 business applications as well, we see that there's actually more of a need of actually trying to figure out what governance looks like, what innovation looks like, and how we can actually manage that, right? So yes, building like a center of excellence is a bit of a passion. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll probably notice I started to blog monthly about taking people through that process of building this center. And the other passion I have is, yes, my guilty pleasure is I'm mad about Zumba. So if I'm not working away on Dynamics implementations, you'll find me on the Zumba dance floor. I'll let you guess which picture is the AI generated one out of the two. There you go. There you go. So yeah, amazing. And what I really wanted to talk about here is like, look, when we're looking at this center of excellence, right, it's about helping our own organizations and our clients to really leverage the tools and look at this from a digital transformation perspective. And you know what? it doesn't matter how long you've been working with the technology. I always have the feeling when I'm talking to clients that it can actually be quite overwhelming about where to start this journey, right? And therefore, a center of excellence really helps us with actually providing that and putting some structure and a bit of a structured approach around this. So and you know what, it actually looks at potentially 3 areas of impact that we can have as a center of excellence. Yes, absolutely, there is like an element of governance and compliance and, you know, having some clear policies and some security and standards, but it's not all about policing. And you know what was really interesting, I was having a discussion with actually a Microsoft industry colleague today, and we had this discussion about this center of excellence, and he actually said, you know, a great analogy is by thinking about a parent-child relationship. Yes, there need to be some ground rules in place, but what is it that we're really trying to do is we're trying to sort of nurture our children, yeah, to become better, to find their own way, and to actually go and explore that world. So as a center of excellence, we want to nurture and enable our colleagues that are working with the Power Platform, that are on the ground, to do more with the technology. And let's face it, when you're buying a license to Dynamics for Sales or Customer Journey Insights, we have already seen in previous calls as well that, you know, there's so much more that we can do now. There's so many more changes that are being made. And it's about how we then inspire and inform people about what the new features are, and really encouraging people to actually get the most out of their license, right? Because if you don't, you're just going to get, you become like a bit still, and it becomes like a stalemate, and it becomes, you know, ultimately potentially a little bit dated. That we want. This is like revolutionary, because the way, you know, I started off in sales and marketing, right? And I didn't have Dynamics 365. I bet you if I did, I probably would still be in those roles, because I was having general frustrations about, you know, reporting. You know, I was always, my sales director was on my back. Oh, you're not generating enough leads. I says, no, it's because I'm trying to close the deals. So yeah, working with business process flows, look at my BPF folks. That's where I'm spending my time. You don't spend so much time trying to justify things. And, you know, from having customer journey insights these days, being able to actually react to incoming messages on social media in real time. My goodness, this is really changing the way that businesses work. And what you want to do is not have a center of excellence that takes control of every single project. That's just not manageable. But it's about enabling those people on the ground to do more with the technology, do more with less. That's what we say, right? So it's all about trying to figure out, therefore, on that third bullet point, where are we going to make most of the impact in our business? Because it's not everything, and we don't want to be everything to everybody. But what we do want to do is bring together some best practice and foster that innovation and foster that impact. So, you know what, when we're looking at actually building a center of excellence, you could argue we're looking at this from a 4-phased approach. And okay, I come from a business background, but I'm very passionate about that very first phase here, which is all about laying the foundations. And as part of that, you might have a vision, or you might have some goals or objectives for your center of excellence. But guess what? If that vision doesn't match your business strategy, is the business going to release the budget for you? No. Are they going to release the resources for you? No. Basically, what then happens when you have like an innovation initiative, they just look at it on a project basis. And when the project is done, your center of excellence might get dismantled, but a center of excellence is more, because we want to strategically and continuously make improvements to the business. And you know what? When one improvement has been made, we want to look for the next gain. We want to look for the next productivity gain. And therefore, when we're looking at this vision and setting the goals and setting the objectives, you know what? Yes, strategy and governance is part of it, but it's not about policing. It's about setting up some frameworks and a basis for growth. Plus, when you've got a real vision in mind and you've got an objective in mind, you have an audience that you want to reach out to, and people have their hooks. They can hang their hooks on, oh yeah, I agree with this vision. Oh, I can relate to what the Centre of Excellence is trying to do, rather than trying to be all things to all people from the outset. And you know what, a year down the line or 2 years down the line, that vision might change and the goal might change naturally as the business evolves. And it's only really, therefore, when you've got the right kind of vision that aligns with the business requirements, that you then say, okay, what I'm going to do with this? How am I going to enable my citizen developers, my functional consultants to actually, and even the sales team or the marketing team, I'm going to make the most of the tailoring of the solution, actually using the solution nowadays using AI. That, of course, involves an element of training and empowerment. But, it's not just about providing a training course and getting a certification. Often it's all about hackathons and learn from each other and being rewarded for actually doing something in that learning process. And from that point, we then can potentially look at scaling this and expanding this to other sides of the business, because what you might want to do as part of your Centre of Excellence, say, look, I'm just going to sort out the sales department and their needs, and then focus on marketing and focus on customer service. Or if you're a global organization, you might say, you know what, I'm going to put a framework together that just helps me with my business in Europe before I start expanding out to the Middle East. It's all about really testing the waters a little bit as well, because you never know what you might come across in this. And it's almost like you're going around in a circle. It's like once you start implementing some governance controls and some training, you're actually learning from every single session, which then feeds back into sort of the goals and objectives that you might have as well. So it's all about broadening your influence, but in a really positive way, in that nurturing, in that encouragement. And then last but not least is then looking at optimization. And optimization is potentially different from growth. Growth is about scaling things, scaling up. But optimization might come at, having a decent return on investment. I already mentioned, if your visions and objectives don't match with your business strategy and vision, are you going to get the money in the first place? And ultimately, what a business likes to see is if they have invested into creating a Centre of Excellence, what's the return? What's the return on that investment? How have we become more efficient? How have we become better at what we used to do? And this is really super exciting, because when we then think about this, it's like, okay, these days we talk about AI and how AI can make us a lot more efficient. But you know what? It comes down to, what is it that the business truly needs? There's lots of features I can switch on, but are those the features that I really need? And I've worked on loads of projects globally, where I've worked with some of the smartest developers in the world, and they go off and design something, but then you try to present it to the customer and they go, well, that's all really cool, but not what I asked for. Doesn't meet my objectives. And it's the same with a Centre of Excellence. You can go off into lots of different directions, but if that's not what the business really needs, and if that is not potentially addressing the main pain points, there's no value. It's cool, but it's no value. And that is something, therefore, when we're looking at these 4 phases, yes, they sort of link together. But it's what a Centre of Excellence truly is potentially is different from running individual projects, because we're doing this on a long-term basis, and we're almost like that governance board. That also means, as a Centre of Excellence, you're never working in isolation, right? You need potentially a technical team and people from the ground that are working in different departments, and you're actually having this as it's almost like a culture shift, isn't it, when we're implementing something like a Centre of Excellence? And to help people along a little bit with setting those foundations and those objectives, right? It's not good enough to say, oh My objective is that I want to make sure every person in the organization has got access to Dynamics customer service and they use it every single day, and I have no more Excel spreadsheets. Yeah, sort of. But we don't have real KPIs. We don't have real targets that we can potentially measure our success against and measure our development against. So here we go. Sorry, 2, 3. Sorry, my cat Boolean is a big fan of Dynamics 365, by the way. He's taking over the presentation right now because my cat is, he likes these sort of analogies I've put together, because as part of your focus, as part of your objective, you can think of it, am I the lighthouse? Am I the one that is guiding my organization safely through what is potentially quite a complex environment? Or am I the garden where I'm really nurturing my environments and nurturing my people? Yeah. Or am I the toolbox where I present my audience with a specialized toolkit, in terms of templates, perhaps, and looking at potentially solving very specific problems that I might see in different areas of the business. So each of them come with their own vision, their own goals and objectives, and then you break down those goals and objectives in very specific KPIs. So Lydia, I'm not really sure if you got my email from last night about potentially running a poll at this stage. If not, I can potentially put some things in the chat here, because did you get that, Lydia?
I didn't know, but
No,
me.
don't worry.
But we can do it on the fly now. So is it the question that's on screen?
Yeah, sure. So this is the question, right? Based on your experience, which skill is to you the most challenging to find in your existing centers of excellence? And I've put some answers into the chat. While I'll continue talking, you guys can have a think about where you find building a center of excellence is potentially holding you back a little bit. And I've put the potential answers in the chat there. Lydia, I'll let you do the honors while I'll continue. Because here, what we'll find, right, is like, if we look at project governance, we are aware, and all of us will do this, when we have a Dynamics implementation, security, naming conventions, version control, when we come to update and tailor our applications, managing the costs in terms of storage of data and files, auditing and monitoring purposes. That's what we do on a project by project basis, right? And we all do this. But where a center of excellence can potentially, add some value and enhance these projects from an overall perspective is by being very proactive in enabling the citizen developers. So proactive in sharing what is new. And, these community calls are great because we talk about it in the community about what's new. But how do you then translate that back into what you bring back into your business, right? Also, what you can see here is potentially around sort of tooling and automation. Yes, there is the Microsoft Power Platform Center of Excellence starter kit that will give us like dashboards and show us potentially what is already in our environment to build upon. But for a Center of Excellence, that's just one of very many tools. Community building, how do you facilitate that knowledge sharing? What feedback loops do you have in place? All of that can potentially be managed by your Center of Excellence. And then what we therefore then have, and this is where I'm looking potentially at the poll, which is interesting here, we have 27% deep technical expertise. We have governance methodologies, 20%, visionary thought leadership, 33%, 36%, it's going up. And this is interesting because when we're looking at, how to potentially find a partner to help you along with this, it's about looking at what's important for you. If it's about visionary thought leadership, where does that originate from? Does that originate from potentially a lack of understanding where the business wants to go and where the technology feeds into that business? Do you want to potentially have a second opinion about what is possible? Yeah. And because, yes, you can have a partner that potentially helps you with building that second opinion, but the partner that you choose might not necessarily know your business. And therefore, even if you decide to work with a partner, you do it in partnership. It's not that the partner won't take over. It's still your center of excellence. And it's about identifying potentially what skills that you might need. So we can potentially have things like where we might need a second opinion around what skills that we have in-house that potentially holds us back with, bearing in mind that technology itself is evolving all the time. Do I look at technical maturity internally where I might decide I might need some more training, and, how do you keep up to date with the latest on that? Potentially hosting hackathons, doing something that Angeliki is doing at the moment, like app in a day, all of these kind of activities will potentially help you in identifying, how a partner can help you. And it doesn't have to be all things all at once. That's we go back to laying those foundations, having a vision, goals, objectives, KPIs, and then we can identify where we need most of the help. And yeah, this is what I really wanted to leave you with. And I actually did not expect visionary thought leadership to be so high on this, but how interesting, how fascinating. So Lydia, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my passion of creating centers of excellence. And this is just the beginning of the story. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I'll be blogging and writing away. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That was fantastic. I was going to say, if folks want to continue to learn from you, best to follow your blog and social media to learn more, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Or get in touch, by all means, please get in touch, and I'll be checking out the chat as well for any questions that there are. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. It's clearly an area of passion, and there's so much to dive into there, isn't there? So I appreciate you bringing what you think are the key points into a 20-minute session.
Thank you.
Let's hand over now to, let's get my slides back up. Next up, we've got Mark. Before we do that, actually, Cindy, here's your presentation prodigy badge. Thank you very much. You did a fantastic job. And for all of our speakers who have presented on previous calls, we're going to reach out and share yours as well, because we're obviously incredibly grateful for all of the speakers that have presented. Okay, now we're going to oh, sorry, Mark, I'm jumping the gun there a little bit, aren't I? But you can see maybe you're getting your badge. I'm excited to hear from Mark. Mark has mentored so many MVPs and really is a font of knowledge for, the best tips and strategies to be able to become a Microsoft MVP. Met up with him at, I think it was the Power Platform conference, and asked him if he'd be willing to come and share some of his knowledge, because one of the comments we get so often when we do polls is, how do I become an MVP? What is the path to MVP status? So over to you, Mark.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm excited to be here and talk about how to become a Microsoft MVP. And I'll start with talking about my journey. So my journey to MVP started sub 2011. I started with a product that Microsoft had published in 2003 called MS CRM. So it wasn't even called Dynamics by this point. So a very long time ago. It was actually 21 years ago. And I was the first person to implement it in New Zealand, that product. So Microsoft's first sale was to me as a customer, and I fell in love with the technology. Now, in 2010, 2011, I was part of an organization called iNetta, and I see Julie Yaks on the call. She knows very well about iNetta, and this was the community program that used to exist before all the community activities that we now have. It was more .NET focused back in those days, and I was the chair of that for New Zealand. Fast forward a couple of months, iNetta, in the following year got closed down because Microsoft had, split into many active communities operating around the world. In 2011, here I was at the bottom of the world in New Zealand, right? As far away as you can be from anything. The closest thing to me is Antarctic. And here I am. And I noticed that if you wanted to be up to speed with what was happening in the product team with the technology, you needed to be an MVP. It was the only way to get early access. And early access to this technology, which I now was doing as a full-time job. I had created a company and I was implementing dynamic CRM or customer engagement, for these organizations I was working with. And you got to realize back in 2011, technology was released on a 3-year roadmap. So only once every 3 years did Microsoft put out a new version of this technology. And so if you could get early access to it, you had massive benefit in guiding your customer around implementations at that time. Now, being at the bottom of the world, most Americans don't even know where New Zealand is on a map. And I proved this by, when I first went to my first MVP summit in 2012, because I got awarded in January 2012. I sitting in Joey's, which is a bar that a lot of the MVPs frequent in downtown Bellevue, and the discussion came up with a bunch of people. Where is New Zealand? And some people thought it was in Europe, some people thought it was in Scandinavia. Most people didn't know where it was. So from a Microsoft perspective and an engagement in on that global stage, being in New Zealand, you really needed to differentiate. And that's why I saw that MVP was one of the ways to do that. And so, as I say, I remember getting up, I think it was the 2nd of January, because remember, we're ahead of you right now. It's Thursday for me in the Southern Hemisphere, going into Friday. And I got up, I think like 3 a.m. in the morning, to find out whether I'd been awarded MVP. And of course, massively excited to get it, all those years ago. And so how many years ago? We're talking 13 years ago is when I got that award. And it definitely transformed my career. And it transformed my career in so many ways, in that I met so many amazing people from all over the world. I spent 18 months traveling, my wife and I, and country after country that we would go to, the first people we'd meet in those countries were MVPs that would take us out for a meal or, host us at an event. Or it was just an amazing experience to realize that once you become an MVP, there's this massive family of community where people have got your back. They want to support you. They want to help you. They want to enable you. And even though we might work in different competing partner organizations, there's a camaraderie that actually happens inside the MVP community. For some of you that know Wim, who oversees a lot of the community programs in Microsoft, he was a business application MVP at the time that I joined. So this is pre him going into Microsoft. And so it's been amazing to see a lot of MVPs often end up in Microsoft, right? Microsoft might give them a shoulder tap, or they apply for a position and they end up in that organization. Now, I've had the pleasure over since about 2019 in London, I started mentoring a lot of people. And over 40 of those people that I have mentored have become MVPs, specifically in business applications. I've had one get it in M365, but specifically in business applications, over 40 of those people have become MVPs. And I'm excited about how I could learn from them and understand what works and what doesn't when it comes to becoming an MVP. Now, since that 2018, 2019 period, I've mentored over 1,200 people in 70 different countries in Microsoft Business Applications. So that means the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 over that period of time. I currently have between 50 and 60 people right now that I'm actively mentoring all over the world. In fact, my biggest mentee audience is actually in the United Kingdom, and followed closely by India and then the US or the Americas region. When I started mentoring people, I wanted to mentor at scale in a way that allowed people that didn't have people in their country that could mentor them. So, for example, I've had a lot to do with Nigeria and the growth of the community in Nigeria when I was in London. And they had no community back in 2018, 2019. And since then, the Power Platform community in that region, Dynamics community, has expanded. I'm in a WhatsApp group with about 400 people just in Nigeria that make up part of the Dynamics and Power Platform community. And this is what I've discovered with Power Platform and Dynamics, is it seems to have this ability to really attract people that want to help each other and support each other and root for each other's success, which I find absolutely amazing. But you might be asking yourself, what does it take to become an MVP? Well, the very first thing is humility. You need to understand that you need to be humble and curious to become an MVP. You need to always seek out truth and insights that might not already be documented or be available. And you have to come with this attitude of not knowing everything, but an attitude of wanting to learn everything. And it's a really important attitude to have, because we've seen creep into the MVP program over time this kind of, when people start to get a massive following and maybe even go into that area of influence, is that they start to think that they're important. And yeah, great. But I tell you what, the MVPs that stand out are those that remain humble. That remain humble and curious and always actively learn. There's an MVP that's just recently retired, literally because of his age, from the program. He's living the good life now, Jerry Weinstock. And he's a classic example of an MVP that wanted to learn it all. So he was very strong in CRM back in the day. Along came the Power Platform and Power Automate specifically. And he just went hard for about 2 years. He learned everything about Power Automate possible. He blogged about it. He talked about it. He found all the new features. He talked about all the things that didn't work for him. So therefore, the product team would have him on advisory boards and stuff with them. And it was just a classic example, is that Jerry was just massively humble and consumed everything he could around the technology. The second skill you need to have is this hunger to learn. Right? You need to have an attitude of, I need to learn everything I possibly can, and apply a concept of learn in public. In other words, always be ready to teach. So hungry to teach what you learn, hungry to put it out there. And you might think, well, what I've learned is just basic. It's not important. And the thing is that the way you explain something could be the thing that has the light bulb moment for somebody else. The way you interpret it doesn't matter if there's been 50 blogs written on a topic or 30 YouTubes already published on it. The way you deliver it could be the thing that sparks the idea in somebody else and will totally change the course of their career. I have been blown away by the Power Platform and the predecessor with Dynamics particularly, is how it can change people's lives. And I mean totally change their lives, this piece of technology. I started as a groundskeeper. I spent 4 years mowing lawns at a school. That was my intro to tech. Why? Because I bought a computer with the money that I earned at that time. And then that led me to where I am now. And I never went to university. I have no formal education. I've got dyslexia. So, my spelling is atrocious. Nothing makes sense when I write sentences and things like that. But this technology enabled me to create a massive, thriving, financially lucrative career that has taken me all over the world. Over 40 countries I've been able to go to. So keep your humility, hungry to learn and hungry to teach. Now, with this in mind, if you're wanting to become an MVP, you need to focus on one technology area. Until you become an MVP, don't diversify. Because when it comes time to be assessed to whether you meet the muster of becoming an MVP by Microsoft, they need to be able to go, which area, which category do you fit within? Are you a guru on Power Automate? Just talk about Power Automate. Don't even jump over to Power Apps to start with. Just do Power Automate. Don't do Power Pages. Just do Power Automate. If you're a guru on Power Pages, just do that until you get awarded as MVP. Then you can diversify. You can get into Azure. You can get into M365. You can mix it up and get awarded in multiple categories. But on day one, stick in one category. It makes it easy for Microsoft to go, that's the lane you're in. We can assess you against the other people in that lane. I've noticed people that try to go multidisciplinary struggle to get MVP for the first time. The next thing you need to do is create a digital presence. And that's not on social media. That sink in. You need to create a digital presence that's not on social media. You don't own social media. You are the product of social media. Social media owns you. They own your data. Look at the T's and C's of whatever you do. That's their data. They're even training it, using it to train AI. So get your domain name. It's not that expensive. Own it. Don't get a subdomain of somebody else and they still own your data because you've thought it'd be cheap to get a free site. The cost is a couple of cups of coffee for the month. If you forgo it, will buy your domain name and hosting for the year. Buy your own domain name and then create a portfolio-based website. Things that you should have in a portfolio-based website are your blogs. But you should have your speaking schedule, both past and present, on that site. You should have all the engagements or projects that you've been involved in without revealing any confidential information where you've got NDAs in place. You should have code snippets, your automations that you've built, apps, testimonials and feedbacks, projects, the industries that you work with. Make it a complete portfolio so when someone goes and looks at it, they can see over time that you've got experience, that you've been doing this for some time. It shouldn't just be a blog site. And the other thing, don't put advertising over it. Don't think you're going to make a quick buck by, putting Google AdSense on your site and a little revenue on. Like that's like people are coming to look at your content, not to be advertised to run off to somewhere else. So just make it about you. Invest in yourself and get I call this a digital home. Just like you have a physical home and you are house proud and you would invite people over and you would have the decor a certain way. Think about this in the same way. Let it reveal your personality, how you think, how, you can add even your other hobbies and stuff on this website, but make it unique to you. Make sure it's a domain that's easy to find. And then as you go to social media, you can cross-pollinate from this site to those social media channels and build your audience over time. Become known, engage online. Share everything. Gary Vaynerchuk says is that if you've got nothing else to share, turn a video camera on and let people watch you while you work. People will tune in to watch that, right? Don't think that what your contribution or your idea is too small. The important thing is get it out there. And if you want to start in one area, why blogging is so important? Because if we back away from blogging and look at writing allows you to clarify your ideas. It allows you to get crisp. It allows you to re-edit a sentence and go, you know what? I could have worded that better. I could have landed that message better. And also you're putting yourself out there for review. I've been doing a bunch of YouTubes lately and people go in the comments, right? Mate, what are you going to do about that bald head of yours? Do you see the light refracting off it? I don't know. You're talking about innovation, but how are you going to innovate with that head of yours? Like, the thing is, people will throw stuff at you, right? And it starts to build, like, I find it funny that's, what they could creatively come up with. But when you put yourself out there, you are getting naked in front of the world, so to speak, right? And so it really helps you, though, refine your thinking. People reach out and go, you could look at it this way, or here's another way of doing that. And so you learn from the process of sharing. So get comfortable with sharing. And I'm not saying overshare, right? I'm talking about in the area of technology that you're focused on, get really good at getting out there because you don't know how it's going to spark creativity in somebody else. There's only one social media platform that you really need to focus on it. I'm not classifying YouTube as a social media platform, and that is LinkedIn, right? All our markets, especially since when Elon purchased Twitter, Twitter used to be an active business community. I've noticed it seems everybody's moved to LinkedIn that were business enabled then. I've got about 12,000 followers on X because I've been around a long time. And the engagement I get is zip now since it's become X. Just everybody's gone that was in that space, you know, and it's no longer the water cooler. I go there for news, but I'm not really going there to contribute so much anymore. LinkedIn, though, is where it's at. So get really good at getting your LinkedIn profile absolutely schmick. Make sure that it, you know, meets all the, you've done a full complete profile. Make sure your image is amazing. Make sure your banner is epic, and then post your content on there. And build your audience and followers in that community. I can't stress the importance of getting LinkedIn right as part of your strategy. And then build relationships. Go to user groups. Get to know people in your local area. When I moved to Australia, I went there and worked there for 3 years. And in those 3 years, I founded 6 user groups across every capital city in Australia. In the 3 years, I grew it to 2,000 members across those user groups around Dynamic CRM back in those days. And the thing is that the relationships that are built in those in-person events, which are, you know, massively accepted now, you know, post-COVID, people want to get back to that. If you don't have a user group, start one. Massive opportunity to bring like-minded people together, create a community around one of the pieces of technology you're working with Microsoft, and build relationships with people. Build relationships with Microsoft people, build relationships with other MVPs, build relationships. And remember, relationships come by a two-way exchange of value, right? And so you've got to look at what value do you bring to the relationship that you can create that engagement with each other. Track and share your contributions. You know, here's an example of my site that I have currently, and it's gone through many iterations over my career. But this is my personal site, and the content that I do and blog on. That was not a humble brag having Satya there in a photo with me back in 2016 when I won a global award. That the importance here is track your contributions. Get a spreadsheet and start listing every post you do. Track your stats on it, you know, put analytics on there, understand how many people are viewing it, how big your audience is, and what is the kind of topical category here. Is it Power App specific? Is it Power Automate, Power Pages? You know, is it Dynamics 365 customer engagement or F&O or Biz Central, whatever it is, track it in that spreadsheet and get really clear of your contributions and the frequency of your contributions. And this is just a starting point of you to understand your contributions, not out of, oh, I think I've done that. Know exactly what that is just by tracking that in a simple spreadsheet. The MVP nomination process, there's only two people groups that can nominate you for MVP. They are existing MVPs or Microsoft full-time employees, right? Don't ask anyone to nominate you that doesn't know you. I constantly get LinkedIn requests. Can you nominate me MVP? Never heard of you. Never heard of you. No, I can't. Like, I'm not going to put my reputation on the line to nominate you for MVP if I haven't seen your work, if you haven't already cropped up in my community or stood out. Now, different if you said, can you mentor me? Yes, I do mentor people, but I don't nominate. I haven't nominated anybody for MVP for over 10 years. I just make a hard rule personally. I don't nominate people. I mentor people to become MVPs, but I don't nominate. So you need to find one of those, either a Microsoft employee to nominate you. They should know you. So whoever you're going to get to nominate you, make sure they know you. They've got to vouch for you. They're going to put their name on the line on your behalf. So you should have built a good relationship over time, right? Not over a week, over time. Whatever time means for you, it needs to be, you know, a good period of time in doing that. One of the things that if you get accepted, they're going to ask you for you to start tracking your contributions. How many contributions have you done over what period of time? What was the audience reach? What was the technology category it sits in? Hence that spreadsheet, you're going to now be ready, right? When that starts to come, you're going to get a URL to start logging your contributions. Microsoft, they're going to observe those probably over around a 3-month period and see what they look like, right? So that's getting you prepared for nomination. Make sure that your content, as I say, is on your personal space. Back in the day, I used to go, I get all these LinkedIn followers and stuff. Now, social media, fluctuates, channels change and move. Your website doesn't, right? It's your website. It's your home. It's your digital home. So make it easy when Microsoft come to assess you, that they can go to a single point and they can see over time history of your contributions and activities. Really, really important. And it's very clear what your area of expertise is from a technology perspective. They shouldn't have to hunt 2 or 3 clicks away. It should be crystal clear, your technology and the contributions you're making to the community. So what are the benefits of becoming an MVP? Well, the benefits are people. You tap into an amazing community that will help you in your career like you would not believe. I said earlier on that the community is what absolutely. I have a new company that I'm a director of in the United Kingdom, called Cloud Lighthouse. All those people in that company are all friends of mine, as in all the leadership team, right? They're people that I've had relationship for over 5+ years, and all of them are either ex-Microsoft employees or ex-MVP, our current MVPs that are in that. So the community, the people, you never know where this is going to take you. From little old New Zealand, took me to Australia. It took me from Australia to Hong Kong and the Philippines and China. It then took me to, I do a lot of work for Microsoft on contract. I then in the US, and then it's taken me to London, right? And Europe, and I've got to work all over Europe in my career. And the MVP was a big part of what enabled that journey for me. And it's the people that you meet in that community. The next people group is Microsoft product team, right? You're going to get, when you become an MVP, you get access to the product team. Why is that a big deal? I found after every MVP summit that I went to, I would fly back to, and I'm specifically thinking of Australia at the moment, I'd get back to Australia and Microsoft, the whole Microsoft business applications team would organize a meeting with me to find out what was new. And I'm like, you're employees of Microsoft. Don't you know this? The thing is, MVPs have crazy access to the product team, even more than FTEs in the field at Microsoft. So full-time employees have less access to the product team than what you do as an MVP. It's a massively privileged relationship to have. The last time I sent an email to Charles Lamana, which was after he presented MVP Summit last year, within an hour, he emailed me back. Why? Because I'd built relationship with him over the 3 years prior before he became to the senior role after James Phillips moved on, right? So you build these connections over a long period of time. I know if I email Wim now, I'm going to get a response in the same day, right? Because I've built a relationship with the guy over time inside of Microsoft. And there's many situations where I can talk to this. The final one there is the MVP family, right? The actual MVP people that you get to connect and engage with all over the world. Last time I saw Angeliki in person was at in Slovenia, wasn't it? I think it was.
I think so. Yeah.
Actually, were you in Vegas? I can't remember if you were in Vegas.
Not in Vegas. No, it was Slovenia.
Okay. This is the thing, you get to meet these amazing MVPs, you get to have a drink with them, eat food, dine, that type of thing, and really engage like you could never imagine. Yeah, Wim's the man, all right. And then you get technology access, right? And I'm like, a lot of people are like, I just want the tech access. Well, I tell you what, it's the people that's most important. In New Zealand, in the indigenous people of our country, they have a saying, what's the most important thing in all the world? And it is people, it is people, it is people. It's a relationships, a connections, and this is what you get on steroids inside the MVP program. Yes, you get heaps of technology access. You get heaps of licenses to build and trial your demos as you see fit. I'll leave you with this magic number 27. How many activities do you need to do? 27. You need to do 27 things consistently of high value. And I put this number out there. It's absolutely arbitrary. I posted this number in 2018, maybe 2017. No one's questioned it since. Thousands of people have watched the videos where I've got this number in. I just said, you need to do 27 things. I've got examples of MVPs. One of them's in Norway, Malin, and she wrote for 30 days, a blog post every day for 30 days. High quality. high quality. And she became an MVP in marketing, or HR it was, I think, originally. Oh, Wim, I didn't even know you're on the call, man. Seeing you pop up there. So do whatever you do it consistently. And when you become an MVP, don't stop doing what you're doing consistently. Carry on, right? Some people say, should you desire to become an MVP? Rick McCutcheon's a BizApps MVP in Canada. And he said, if your career is in the space, it's the premium award to get if your career is in the space. So it's something that you should go after if your career is in the space that we are operating in. Final things. Couple of call to actions. I've got a YouTube playlist of 33 videos that I recorded in 2019. I go back and look at it and say, do I need to update it? It's around how to become an MVP across 33 videos. Each one's only about 4 minutes and links, maybe less, maybe 2 minutes. That playlist is, I've had so many people reach out to me. I don't even count the 40 the people have watched that list, which have just done it and come back and said, you wouldn't believe how that YouTube series helped me so much to become an MVP. And that's a lot of MVPs that are outside this category. Start today. Don't muck about. Like, it's December, man. You could be cranking. You could get awarded by mid-February if you apply yourself and really go after this. My name is Mark Smith. If you want to connect with me, you want any of those links, there you go. You can scan me. It's straight to my LinkedIn profile. I'll drop it into chat. If you want to be mentored, happy to help. But I can't recommend the MVP program enough. Back to you, Lydia.
Thank you so much. I think what you did there, you're obviously an absolute expert. Not only did you capture really practically the things to do to become an MVP, but also the joy of being an MVP that it brings to your life. One of the things that I have loved over the last, I think it's nearly 6 months now we've been running this call, is getting to know so many community members and hearing how much it means to them. And like you said, there's so much going on with the technology. There's so many benefits, but the sense of family that I'm hearing over and over again from whether an MVP or not an MVP, but an active community member is I think one of the most touching things that I have loved learning more and more about over the last 6 months. So thank you so much for an awesome presentation. Thank you everybody for joining these calls over the last few months. I'm so excited for us to come back in the new year. We've got some amazing speakers lined up and just really, really thrilled to have you here. As Dwayne mentioned earlier up in the thread, all of the previous calls are published on YouTube and promoted on LinkedIn, so you can access the links there. And we're going to start breaking them up into individual chunks as well. So if you loved Cindy's presentation and want to be able to take it to someone else to share it with them, you'll be able to share her exact speaking slot. So thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful, restful holiday break, and we will see you in 2025. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.